Jack Nicholson finally speaks the truth at 88. The truth about Robin Williams. Jack. Nicholson's full name at birth was John Joseph Nicholson. At Neptune City, New Jersey on April 22, 1937. New Jersey. From the start, his. Life was shaped by strange events. As he became older, he thought that his. His grandmother was his mother and his. His sister was his real mother, a revelation. Things came to light considerably later in his, being an adult. This early turn in his. People have often told my personal story as something that came straight from Hollywood, writing, hinting at how hard it will be and the richness that Nicholson would subsequently add to the parts he played on TV. Brought up in a Nicholson worked in a working class setting, become very interested in performance and telling stories from a young age. This ultimately prompted him to seek performing as a job. His entrance into Hollywood was not easy or glamorous. He started out as a gopher at MGM's cartoon studio before slowly moving on to his way into acting parts, which is often hard for him, several years before he found his breakthrough. Nicholson's career started in the late 1950s when he started getting tiny parts in B. Roger Corman regularly made these movies. Even though these early roles they made him famous right away, but they also gave him the opportunity to study the trade and improve his style and show how strong he is in a business that often needs more than instant success, patience. His big break came in 1969 with Easy Rider, where he played the lead role. Rider, where he did a good job as the George Hansen, a drunk lawyer, got him his first nomination for an Oscar. That part pushed him into the mainstream and marked the beginning of a series of amazing performances that would set the tone for the following 40 years of movies. Nicholson solidified his career in the 1970s, his name as a great performer. In Five Easy Pieces 1970, he played a character that his amazing talent at acting characters with complicated feelings, having trouble with who they are and feeling alone. In 1973's The Last Detail, he gave a performance that was quite emotive and was both funny and really sad. His turn as Randall McMurphy in One Flew, 1975's Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is still one of the best performances in the history of movies, which won him his first Best Actor Oscar. Nicholson played McMurphy, a rebellious person who stands up to the cruel Nurse Ratched, caught the vibe of the 1970s counterculture and made him a cultural figure, icon. The 1980s offered another defining role with Stanley Kubrick's Scary. The Shining 1980 is a horror classic. Nicholson's scary but interesting depiction of Jack Torrance, a novelist, going crazy, became an unremovable aspect of pop culture. Lines have reverberated like Here's Johnny across generations, proof of how Nicholson could make things that would stay with you forever. Power to the screen. When it comes to endearment, 1983, he revealed his softer side, which earned another Oscar for acting. Garrett Breedlove, a charming retired space traveler. This duality, being able to show both wildness and kindness with equal conviction, set him out as one of the most adaptable actors of his time. Batman came out in 1989 and Nicholson played the Joker, which was another important step. His performance was larger than life, creepy, and fun all at the same time. Performance that is both scary and fun not only drew in audiences all across the world, but also set a standard for comic books. Bad guys on screen. Nicholson's Joker had such an effect that it changed generations of actors who later took on the job. His ability to add, putting charm, danger, and humor into one persona proved once again the amazing range of his art. Nicholson in the 1990s and early 2000s kept giving unforgettable shows. In the 1992 movie A Few Good Men, he played of Colonel Nathan R. Jessup gave movies one of its most famous sentences: "You can't deal with the truth, the strength, and the power he brought to the job," showed that he was the best at take over the screen after showing off his ability to play many roles in movies like Mars Attacks 1996, the funny sci-fi movie that makes fun of. Nicholson was able to scare and entertained audiences, and Hawa 1992, where he fully took up the role of the Jimmy Hoffa, the famous labor leader, as well as another project called Main Trouble. It showed how good he was at bring to life characters with many layers. Jack Nicholson went into what a lot of critics label the best part of his later career. Once again, he shocked the world in 1997 with his outstanding performance in James L. Brooks' love drama Ass with Helen Hunt as the lead. Nicholson portrayed Melvin U.D. Dahl, a person who hates people, writer who is obsessive and compulsive. Biting humor and stubborn oddities slowly give way to times of tenderness. His sophisticated acting, not being too serious yet also being vulnerable, not only enthralled crowds, but also won him an Oscar for Finest Actor, showing that even after decades of his, Nicholson was still able to do this in his career, recreating himself and surprising the world. When the new millennium started, Nicholson kept showing his tremendous range and ability to last. He became Warren in 2002, Schmidt in About Schmidt, a sad movie, comedy that made him lose his signature, Charm to show a lonely, recently, widower who is retired and trying to find his way, the desolation of his later years. People who don't like it called the performance one of the most modest and powerful of his career, which showed that Nicholson could, not only in flashy, big roles, then life roles, but also in quiet stories that are very human. In 2003, just a year later, he reminded followers of how funny he is when he worked with Adam Sandler in the popular movie Anger Management. Nicholson's representation of the unusual Dr. Buddy Riel, a therapist with wild eyes, added an unusual vitality to the film and made people laugh while giving him more credibility as an actor who could rule any type of music. But Nicholson still had work to do. In 2006, he went back to the darker side of his, taking on the creepy part in his repertoire of Frank Costello, a heartless Irish mobster, boss in Martin Scorsese's criminal movie, The Departed, acting with Hollywood. Big names like Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio and Nicholson stole the show with his evil unpredictability, making one of the most unforgettable bad guys in current movies his. The performance was very strong and eerie that it won him a Golden Globe nominated, reminding the industry once again why he was one of the best. Again, why he was one of the best actors ever. The next year, Nicholson shocked viewers once more, this time in a more touching and light that bounces off of things. He was in a movie with someone else in 2007, with Morgan Freeman in The Bucket List, a touching drama about two people who are dying, males who went on a trip around the world, adventure to make their dreams come true before they die. Nicholson's role as the rich but emotionally guarded Edward Cole led him look at ideas of death, friendship, and atonement, finding a middle ground between being funny and being sad. The movie became a cultural milestone that inspired millions with its message on how to live life to the fullest and made it even stronger. Nicholson will always be remembered as an actor who touched people of all ages. Jack. Nicholson's private life has long interested the public almost as much as his famous career as an actor, his first. And his only marriage was to actress Sandra Knight in 1962. Nicholson was a rising star at the time in Hollywood, where he is still working on his career. Knight was recognized for her, appears in movies like The Daughter of Frankenstein 1958, their marriage though marred by youthful vigor and the glitz of Hollywood, wasn't meant to last forever. The pair had been together for 6 years, officially chosen to go their separate ways, getting a divorce in 1968. Even though they got divorced, they has a daughter named Jennifer Nicholson, came into the world in 1963. Jennifer spent most of her childhood away from the spotlight, but she soon followed her own creative path, becoming a designer of clothes. Nicholson always remained a caring parent, and even though he was married to Sandra Knight, ended, but their daughter kept them close, was still a vital element of his life. After his divorce, Jack Nicholson, he never got married again, but he became famous for a number of well-known and often partnerships that were always changing and kept him in the spotlight. One of his first and well-known relationships was dating actress Susan Ann Patch, who he met in the early 1970s. It was hard to understand their relationship. Passionate, showing Nicholson's free-spirited and not normal way of life back then, even though their love affair came to an end. Later, Spack said that Nicholson was Caleb's father. Goddard was born in 1970. Nicholson didn't say anything about it in public. Caleb as his son, which caused years of guessing and stress more, adding to the mystery around his private life. Maybe Nicholson's most well-known and a long-lasting relationship was with Angelica Houston, the daughter of actress, famous director John Huston. The romance started in 1973 and went on and on, off for almost 17 years. During this, they became one of Hollywood's best-known couples during this time, the most talked about couples. People liked them for their charm and skill, but also famous for their unstable relationship. Houston commonly called Nicholson magnetic, hard to predict, and never-ending, charming, but also hard to pin down. Their love affair lasted through a lot of ups and downs, but in the end it ended in Houston's heart broke when Nicholson's cheating became too much to handle. Even after they broke up, the two still kept respecting each other and having a lasting love for each other, and Houston has often been honest about how Nicholson had a big impact on her life. Nicholson also had a connection with Winnie, a Danish model, Hallman. They may not have had enough time together, not as closely watched by the public as his romance with Houston, but it was important in Nicholson's life because it led to the birth of a daughter, Honey Hallman. Honey got older, lives largely outside of Hollywood, Denmark with her mom, away from the flash and noise of Nicholson's universe. Nicholson did not have he has a conventional family structure, recognized his duty as a father and kept in touch with Honey for the rest of her life. Nicholson started another one in 1989, high-profile love affair, this time with Rebecca Brauzard is an actress. Their partnership was a new beginning for him because it was one of his longest and the most dedicated partnerships. Nicholson and Brauzard were together for 5 years, during which time they had 2 kids, a girl named Lorraine who was born in 1990 and a son named Raymond in 1992. In contrast to some of his prior partnerships, Nicholson was an extremely involved father. During this time, they were often photographed, spending time with his little kids. Eventually, Lorraine went after a job in acting in movies like Soul, Surfer 2011. Raymond grew up to become an actor too, keeping up the creative legacy of the family, even after their love affair came to an end. Nicholson and Brauzard stayed together in 1994, dedicated to raising their kids, which showed how much the love and maturity that had been between the two of them. Later in the 1990s, people romantically linked Nicholson's name to actress Lara Flynn Bolle, who was then becoming famous for her part in Twin Peaks and other things. Their connection, it got a lot of attention, even though it was short, because they are clearly different ages and Nicholson's status as a Hollywood playboy. Reports said that their romance was very strong but short-lived, terminating after for only a few years. Still, it further solidified Nicholson's reputation as a man who, even far into their middle years, kept be connected to beautiful women and remained an interesting person in the social scene in Hollywood. At 88 years, Jack Nicholson is now 80 years old and has reached a point. At this point in his life, he looks back on his career and friendships with a clear mind that only time and thought can provide. For a long time, Nicholson was recognized as one of the most mysterious people in Hollywood. Always funny, smart, and hard to predict, both in real life and on TV. But he opened up at a recent private talk about his late pal Robin Williams in a way he hadn't done in a long time. His words had the weight of both admiration and sadness, and for those who they liked Williams and gave him a window into how much one legend respected. One more. Robin was like a bolt of lightning in a bottle. Nicholson admitted taking a break before he spoke, like he was carefully choosing his words. You never knew which way to go. You knew he would go in, but you didn't know what he would do. Be great. Nicholson has established a career on intense and crisp performances. Williams was a form of artistic freedom that only a few people could handle. They ran into each other many times. For the whole time they were in Hollywood, in both personal and professional life. And Nicholson remembered how Williams's presence might transform the whole energy of a room. He could fill a room with. People went from being quiet to crying. Nicholson stated it took seconds for laughs. And I don't think the world will ever see that kind of real magic again. Nicholson went even further and said that Williams, He was more than just funny. People thought of Robin as a cyclone of funny, but he was one of the most thoughtful men I ever met, he thought. Things very thoroughly, maybe too deeply at times. That was both his talent and his load. This is what Nicholson meant when he said this, pointing to the duality that made up Williams, his unmatched ability to make others happy while keeping it to yourself, fighting his own challenges. Nicholson admitted that he often observed in Williams had a sensibility that other people missed, forgotten. There was a softness in him, Nicholson said, and you could see it in his eyes, even when he was. You laughed so hard that your gut hurts. There were many ways that the two actors were different. Ways. Nicholson with his famous smile and frequently scary presence on television, and Williams with his endless energy and brilliance at improvisation. But they shared a bond based on respect for each other. Nicholson said that every time there was always time for them to be together. There was laughing, but there was also honesty. He would sit down with you and look you straight in the eye and listen. Robin listened carefully, which is not common. Quality in this line of work, Nicholson said, quietly. He didn't care about the games from Hollywood. He cared for other people. Nicholson also talked about how painful it was, losing Williams in 2014, a loss that shocked Hollywood and fans all around the world. It felt like a light went out when Robin left us. Went out into the world, Nicholson thought about it, his voice full of feeling. I remember hearing the news and just sitting there and not quite believing it. It had seemed unfathomable that someone who donated so a lot of life could be gone, he said. That Williams' death made him think about the weakness of even the smartest spirits. We believe these guys are. They seem bigger than life, but they are real people, simply like everyone else. And occasionally, it's the toughest thing to be human. Nicholson ended his thoughts with words that showed how much Williams had meant a lot to him. Robin had this kind of kindness. He gave everything he had every time, no matter what, was on stage, in a movie, or just having a conversation with a pal. That's what I'm gonna do. Bring with me all the time. Not only was he funny, he was something special. For Nicholson, talking so frankly about his friend was a way to show respect for a man. His skill and kindness left Anne, not just on audiences, but also on his friends. As Jack Nicholson sits in the dark of his own, his memories of a fantastic life and career of Robin Williams are still quite clear. A reminder of the unusual bond two Hollywood stars shared, and finally, being honest about his acquaintance. Nicholson let the world see not the richness of Williams' paintings, but also the deep effect he had on those who really knew him.